I'm joining Jennifer McClanahan today of leverage2lead.com, and the whole conversation is going to be streamed on Facebook. So if you can go to facebook.com/timbertax.co, you should see a live link there because I'm not smart enough to figure out how to go live on Instagram and Facebook at the same time. See you there. Okay, so we are now live on Facebook, Jennifer. So thank you for being my first guest on my 2 o'clock for the timber community. It's really good to have you here, and I'm excited to hear what you have to talk about. And so for everybody watching, I just wanted to introduce Jennifer. She is a diversity consultant for women of color as well as organizations. And I know that during this time, her work is particularly popular, and I think that it's never been less important. It's just that we're all paying attention now. And so I don't feel tremendously competent about talking about this, and I feel like now is a good time to continue the conversation. So I just wanted to have Jennifer on to share with us some of her expertise.
Oh, Luke, thanks so much for having me on. I have notes, so you're going to see me refer to them so that I can keep track of this conversation. There's a number of things that I want to say, and I don't want to miss many of them. So I started my practice, my work in 2010, doing career strategy for women in general. And when I really began to understand the work of Black Lives Matter, and after the death of Trayvon Martin, I really began to focus my work on career strategy for women and people of color in corporate environments. So most often my one-on-one clients would be lawyers or doctors, people in technology, people in senior management. And as I was doing that work, organizations, when they were in crisis, maybe there was a conflict or an issue with someone of color in their organization, they would call me and ask if I could help them figure out what to do and help them navigate. So often my work comes in crisis, and I think many organizations are feeling a sense of crisis and uncertainty of what is their stance and what should they do in a time like this, right? And so that really developed Leverage to Lead into helping organizations, and we usually work with smaller organizations, cultivate a culture in which the values of equity and inclusion can be developed. One thing that I would like to just make clear in Black Lives Matter. So Black Lives Matter is an organization that supports social justice for Black people. And you can find out more about Black Lives Matter at blacklivesmatter.com. The idea, right, that Black Lives Matter is what we are going to talk about here in particular.
Not the organization.
Exactly, not the organization. And the fact that Black Lives Matter is just that, it's a fact. The question is, do they matter to you or not? And right. And if so, what is it that you want to say about that? And who do you say it to? And how do you say it? So one of the things that I just want to put out as a little data point, it's not a little data point, it's a big data point. In 2017, the leading death of males of all races in the United States under the age of 44 was unintentional injuries, followed by suicide and then heart disease. In 2017, the leading death of Black males under the age of 44 is homicide, unintentional injuries, and heart disease. And I want to make clear that in the case of George Floyd, the autopsy classified his death as a homicide. So when we talk about homicide, we're also talking about police killings. Now, again, the responsibility to dig into that data and those numbers is something that I leave with your audience members to do. I know there's all types of thoughts that might come up around that. And I would encourage people to go to blacklivesmatter.com and contextualize that data and information. But what we're talking about and the work I do is the understanding that most organizations don't understand how to talk about social justice. They may not be social justice organizations. They don't know, they haven't thought about how they feel about it. Do they not feel about it? And what happens in a moment like this, when you see people making statements or they're doing the Blackout Tuesday, organizations are in the position to respond to what's happening and how should I respond. And they're responding without doing the reflective work of what is it that I believe in? Who am I? What is our statement? So the work that we do is that we help organizations do that exploration so they're clear about what matters to them and where they stand on social justice. And it doesn't necessarily mean that the idea is that they're going to be a social justice organization. The idea is that if you have Black employees, if you have Black clients, if you have white employees or white clients, if you have people of color in your organization that care about social justice, you have now a responsibility to let them know where you stand. So it's also super clear that this is not going to be the last racial incident.
Yeah.
You know, it's sad, but we are now looking at the rest of the officers in the George Floyd case, and more than likely there's going to be some type of trial, and after that trial there's going to be some type of verdict. There will be a visceral response one way or the other to that series of events, and it would be prudent of all organizations to understand where they stand and what they believe and what they want to say about those events before they happen. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So what we ask people to do is to, first of all, again, examine what do they believe, what culture are they cultivating in themselves and their organization, and what do they believe about equity and inclusion and social justice, and develop a statement for that. The statement doesn't have to be a public statement. It doesn't have to go on your website. It doesn't have to, every time something happens, you don't actually have to put a black box and put something on. And in fact, if you don't actually have the practices that support the statement, if it's something that you wish for, something you would like to be, to actually put it on your website as a statement is somewhat, it means you're not in alignment, right? So you might want to think of the capacity of building a statement that says, you know what, I have Black employees. And when something like this happens, I actually want to know what I'm going to say to them when this happens. It can be a statement that says, you know, while I don't understand how you feel, I care about you and I care about this issue. Let me know how I could best support you. It might be something where you say to Black employees, I know that this is a challenging time for you to show up at work in these days. And so I really want you to take the time that you need. I'm here for you. I understand. It could be another similar or different statement that you would have for your clients. And you have to decide if you want to be a leader in, right, in this movement or not. And then again, that's work within the individual organization that you make, but I would recommend that you think about making that now. You might have great intentions and you might mean well, and you might be a very nice person, but if you don't have a voice or a stand, people will decide who you are for you. The other thing is that after you examine the idea and you examine what your values are, and then you build a statement about what those values are, and you understand that statement serves a purpose. Either it's a guiding light for your organization. It might be that your organization does some social justice, and so that it's out there. It might be that your organization does a lot of work with communities of color, so it's out there and you make the statement. Or it might be an internal statement that really regulates how you treat each other, right, in your organization. Then the next thing to do is really begin to align your policies and practices and systems with the values of that statement, because that's how you actually become in alignment and feel comfortable saying out loud, this is what I believe, right? Because what I have seen, and people have been reaching out to me and they're like, well, should I do the black square? And if I do the black square, what should I say? And my question is, well, what are you doing? Like you're going to say what you actually do, right?
Mm.
Don't say it if you don't do it. So if you believe that this is the statement that you want to be behind, and you've done the research and you understand social justice and equity issues, build a statement and then make sure, whether it's the way you hire people, right, the way that you interact with your clients, whatever the policies and procedures you have in your organization, that they actually support those values. And then invest in doing the work, right? Invest in doing personal and professional development and growth for yourself and for your team members, so that you continue to grow and understand more about the issue. This is, it's a kind of a shame that there isn't this sense that we need to learn about this. But here in the United States, especially, racism has been part of our country for 400 years, but there's a
Mhm.
whole section of our population, many of whom are white, but not all, who've never really actually understand the complicated issues around race and the consequences that means. And so now we're seeing on display in a very public way, and it's startling and it's upsetting. And in some ways it builds a sense of shame, because why didn't I know about this all along?
Mhm.
Right. And that shame can sometimes make us feel like we don't want to act.
Totally.
Right. Right.
Avoid.
Exact. And I'm embarrassed and I don't even know what I don't know. And I just want to reiterate that if you own an organization of any size, you have decided that you're going to be a leader, and leaders act, right? And in this situation, you again may not be a social justice organization, but the culture is coming to the point where everyone needs to be clear about how they feel and what they understand and what they know. And I have personally found, why I do this work is that I grow in doing and understanding these sometimes complicated and very much intricate issues. It makes me actually a much more compassionate person, and I have the capacity and understanding the issues to really center people's humanity in the work, and center people's humanity in the statements that we provide, center people's humanity in the fact that they don't know about this, but they care about knowing about that.
Mhm.
And so ultimately doing the work I have found to be very gratifying in many different ways. But just really want to support people in understanding that we don't get to when we make the decision to be a leader, we don't get to choose when we want to lead,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah,
We have to stand up and lead.
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you leading and helping us understand more of what we can do, and some of our responsibilities too, as or people who own organizations and who are out in the public. So thank you.
You're welcome.
And if people want to learn more about you or work with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
So if they'd like to learn more about our work in general, they can reach us they can check out our website. It's www.leverage to the number 2 lead.com, leverage2lead.com. And if you'd like to reach out to me directly, you can reach me at support, SUPPORT, at leverage2lead.com.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. And this video will be live on Facebook and then on YouTube. So I'm sure there'll be some comments, and we'll definitely try to moderate some of those or reply to them and add resources as we can. And again, thank you. And that does it for the live.
All right. Thanks so much for having me.